Hi guys, it's me Chazza HD and welcome to the race watch along for today's 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well ahead of what is going to be, I think, definitely an interesting race. I don't think we're going to see a procession. I think from what we've seen so far this weekend in F1 and in F2 as well, you know, with the racing they've done, I think we are going to see definitely some good racing today. Hopefully some exciting moments. And of course, when it comes to the fight for the World Championship, this could be the deciding race. It really could be. It could be the afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it, morning if you're in, you know, if it's morning where you are. It could be that part of the season where all is decided, and I cannot wait to see, after a very exciting finish to qualifying yesterday where you didn't quite know who was going to get pole position. Ended up being Lewis Hamilton because Max Verstappen made a mistake on the very last corner at the very, very, very end of qualifying. Great session, and I think in today's race you're going to see a race where it's not going to be decided, I don't think, at turn one. I think it's going to be a race that, you know, it's going to take, it might not be, you know, going down to the absolute wire, you know, until the very last lap, but definitely 30 or 40 laps. I think we're going to have some very hard racing and very, very good competition between everyone in the field, not just the very front. Hopefully you guys are doing well in chat. Hopefully you're having as best a day as you could possibly be having, given whatever circumstances you're going through. And yeah, hopefully with me today, you will be watching along and enjoying today's 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which gets underway in 27 and a half minutes time. Now, unfortunately, Nib is not here. Now, I messaged him about an hour to an hour and a half ago, I think it was, maybe an hour ago actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I messaged him asking, you know, for sure, are you coming on today? And I haven't had a response, and he hasn't been online since. So either his internet has gone out or he's asleep. I'm probably going to go with the latter, if I'm being honest. So if he does wake up before the race starts and I can have the time to get him on, then I will, you know, do that. But at the moment, no sign of Niblo, so we'll see what happens. If he can't come on, then obviously that's a shame. But you know, if that's the case, then of course we'll crack on and do the race watch along. But like I said, if he wakes up beforehand and I can get him on, then I'll make sure to do so. But let's now, before I get into talking a bit about, you know, what I think is going to happen in today's Grand Prix, let me now get into the starting grid and the grid for this Grand Prix. And after that, of course, we'll get into what battles I expect to see today in Saudi. So Lewis Hamilton starts the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix on pole position. Valtteri Bottas will be second, so it'll be a Mercedes front row. Max Verstappen third. If Verstappen did not crash out on the final corner in qualifying, he would have got pole position by probably 3 or 4 tenths of a second. It was quite a sizable gap. It looked as though it was going to be between Max and Lewis. So, Max Verstappen, that lap time, that position is definitely not representative of how quick he actually was in qualifying. Charles Leclerc P4, good result for him. Or good grid position rather for him. Perez 5th, and then Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda, Ocon and Giovinazzi complete the rest of the top 10. And the rest of your starting grid is Ricciardo P11, Raikkonen P12, Alonso P13, Russell P14, Sainz P15, Latifi P16, and then 17th is Sebastian Vettel, 18th is Lance Stroll, 19th is Mick Schumacher, and 20th is Nikita Mazepin. So that is your starting grid for the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Before, though, we move on to the teams and, the different battles that we're going to be seeing today and giving a preview quickly for that. I'm just going to quickly mute my microphone so I'm going to just quickly blow my nose. I'll be back in just a moment. that should be better. Anyway, let's move on to some of the pictures of the cars this weekend. The pictures you'll be seeing during the stream, as we're 24 minutes away from the formation lap. So let's get into the battle at the very front between Mercedes and Red Bull. Now, again, Max Verstappen, as we said, he should have been on pole position pace-wise, but he made the mistake. That is, his mistake. He should take that one on the chin. It's, no one else's fault as to why that happened. And yeah, he starts third because he's put himself, really, in a position that he's going to have to do a lot of work today if he's going to win this Grand Prix. I still think he can win the Grand Prix today because I don't think overtaking around this circuit is going to be as hard as other people have, claimed. I think we could definitely see some overtakes in this Grand Prix. And I think given the speed that Max Verstappen showed in qualifying, if he maintains that sort of pace difference from, between him and Lewis, then he definitely should have the pace to, at least be in his DRS window if, though, he can get past the man on screen, Valtteri Bottas. With Valtteri Bottas, he is, for me, without a doubt, the key in this Grand Prix today. If Valtteri Bottas can keep second place at the start, and most importantly, keep keep Max Verstappen behind and keep Verstappen away from Lewis Hamilton, at least until the only round of pit stops, which should be lap 25, lap 30, I'd imagine, for the only round of pit stops here in Saudi, then that could be the difference between Lewis Hamilton winning and losing this Grand Prix, and not just winning and losing the Grand Prix, but winning and losing the World Championship. So Valtteri Bottas is the key. Sky F1 did actually show beforehand in the build-up to their, F1 show, the race day, they were showing that, Bottas has started on the grid higher than Max Verstappen in the last 3 races. But Max Verstappen, at the start of all 3 races, has been able to pass Bottas down to turn 1, or either before you get to turn 1. So Bottas has definitely got to do better this time in fending off Max Verstappen, because if he does what he did, for example, in Brazil, and not quite get the getaway that he needs to get, and then leaves a gaping-sized gap for Max Verstappen to attack, again, like we saw at Interlagos, then I think Max Verstappen will take that, get the overtake done, and then it'll be Hamilton versus Verstappen, which is exactly what Mercedes don't want. They want Bottas to do his best and hold up, Max Verstappen as much as possible. Saying that, Max Verstappen, at some point, he will overtake Valtteri Bottas. I have no doubt about that. Whether it be during the pit stop phase or on track, Max Verstappen will get the move done. It's just a matter of how long Bottas can hold up Max Verstappen. If he can't hold him up at all, then I think Max Verstappen is in a great, great position to win the race today. But if Bottas can hold him up, it's a different story. And I think, we'll get on to my predictions later. When I say later, I mean in about 10 minutes' time. But if Verstappen is second at the end of the first lap, then I would say he is the favourite to win the race. And like I said, I'll get on to my predictions in a moment. And now, I'll just quickly, before I get to those predictions, I'll get into the midfield and what I expect to see from them. So, you've got Charles Leclerc in P4. Perez, of course, is in 5th. Perez should be able to get past Charles Leclerc by lap 10, I think, at the latest, because the Ferrari is definitely not as quick as the Red Bull this weekend around this circuit. So, yeah, Perez should be making his way past him pretty sharpish in this Grand Prix. And Leclerc, I think, should end up finishing in as I think Kimi Raikkonen just giving Martin Brundle the cold shoulder there on the grid walk there. That was good to see there from Kimi. But yeah, Charles Leclerc should be able, as long as he doesn't do anything silly on the first lap, like go for a silly move on Verstappen or Bottas when there's not really a position to be made up, or, you know, defend too hard and get tangled up with Perez, then I think Leclerc should be the highest placed finishing midfield car this weekend, or in this Grand Prix, sorry. I know people will say, well, Gasly's looked quick and Norris has looked quick, so on and so forth, but Charles Leclerc, I think, is good enough, and the Ferrari car is also looking pretty good this weekend, that he could get the job done and finish in the top 5, which if he does do that, then that basically does, doesn't it, guarantee that Ferrari will finish third in the Constructors. I mean, it is basically already guaranteed, but it would put a rubber stamp on it, so hopefully from their point of view they can get that. And then you got Gasly in P6. I think Gasly will probably be around P6, P7 by the end of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris, I think, said if he had not made a mistake in qualifying, he probably should have ended up in the top 5 on the grid here. So Lando clearly feeling he should be higher up on the grid and should be contending with, say, Gasly and possibly Leclerc in this race. I think the Norris could probably beat Gasly today, but I'm not sure he could beat Leclerc because, again, I think the Ferrari car is just too strong in this current point of the season. Of course, the very end of the season, the Ferrari have been so much better than McLaren. But then after that, I mean, you've got Yuki Tsunoda in P8. He should, hopefully from AlphaTauri's point of view, he should be finishing in the top 10 as long as he doesn't do anything silly like we've seen him do before. AlphaTauri have looked pretty good this weekend. They've looked about the 4th best team around this Jeddah circuit. Then after that, you've got Alpine and Alfa Romeo, who look as though they're about equal with each other. Of course, you've got Ricciardo P11, Carlos Sainz is down in P15. They're both, I wouldn't say Ricciardo's massively out of position, but he is, I think, still maybe a couple places out of position there is Daniel Ricciardo. And then for Carlos Sainz is massively out of position. Carlos really, I think, yesterday, had he not had the issues with his rear end of his car that he had, probably would have been in the top, say, 7, top 8 on the grid. So, yeah, Carlos Sainz has a lot of making up to do, and I think he will do that in this Grand Prix today. But yeah, I think, obviously, Mercedes and Red Bull, the top 2 teams, and then after that, Ferrari, I'd probably say the quickest midfield team, then AlphaTauri, then McLaren, and then after that, like I said, Alpine and Alfa Romeo are looking pretty quick this weekend, and also a pretty close on performance, so it's going to be hard really to predict in terms of that battle who is going to be where, and who is going to maybe nick a point. It's going to be very tough for those 2 teams to nick a point in the Grand Prix today because, like I said, Ricciardo starting in P11 and Carlos Sainz starting in P15, they're going to be very competitive, those 2 especially. So, you know, we'll see what happens. And then after that, you've got Williams looks as though they're quicker than Aston Martin this weekend, which is a surprise. But Aston Martin, we have seen at times in this second half of the season, Aston Martin have been very, very slow. That's because Aston Martin have pretty much given up the most out of any other team, except for Haas, of course, on development for this season. So, honestly, to me, it's not really a massive shock that Aston Martin are not really pace-wise looking that great. So, yeah, Aston Martin, 17th and 18th? I mean, maybe you could argue it should be a bit better than that, say like a 14th and 15th or a 13th and 14th, something like that. But like I said, they've not really developed that car at all this season. So, yeah, not really a big surprise. And then, of course, Haas are at the back. But I think we are in, like I said, we are in for a good Grand Prix today. Plenty of great battles. Again, Hamilton versus Bottas versus Verstappen. We'll see what Sergio Perez can do. And then you've got possibly Leclerc, Gasly and Norris fighting for the best 3 midfield positions. Let's say the podium for F1.5. And then after that, I think you've got a great battle between Tsunoda, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Ricciardo, and Sainz for the remaining 3 positions in the top 10. Before I get on to my predictions, though, just going to quickly blow my nose again. Before I blow my nose, though, I'm just going to say quickly, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live right after the race finishes, and as soon as possible, after the race finishes, as soon as I can, I will be going live with the race reaction to this Grand Prix. That is, though, as long as something actually does happen in this Grand Prix that is worth, reacting to. I think there will be, and hopefully there will be from this Grand Prix. And as well, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this in regards to the watch-alongs, because next weekend, of course, is the final Grand Prix, and as long as the championship, will be going, if it does go down the championship to the final Grand Prix, I will be doing 3 watch-alongs that weekend. 1 for practice 3, 1 for qualifying, and another for the race. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or just go to my channel page and do it there. Whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell, and as well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. It does help the channel grow. Now, like I said, I'm going to quickly blow my nose, give it a quick wipe, and then we'll get into my predictions for this Grand Prix today. All right, hopefully that should be a bit better for the time being. Hold on, let me just... Oh, just thought that was Nib texting me then. My phone's just going off. Let's now get into our predictions for this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So what I want you guys to do, firstly, before I get into mine, in the live chat, let me know who do you think will win the Grand Prix today, finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. Like I said, let me know who you think is going to finish in those positions, and I'll make sure, after I finish reading out my, not reading out, but, finalising what I think is going to happen with the top 5 in the race today, I will read out as many predictions from you guys in the live chat as I can before the formation lap gets underway. So make sure to do that right now, and I'll make sure to read out as many as I can before we head off for the race. Now, I did, in my race preview, say who I thought was going to win the race today, and I'm going to stick with it. I think Max Verstappen is going to win this Grand Prix today. The reason I think that is simple. Max Verstappen, I think, has the quickest car, not by an absolute mile, but I think the Red Bull is quicker than the Mercedes. And then we looked at the sector time data. If you missed the race preview, we looked at the sector time data, and Red Bull overall were quicker, I think, compared to Mercedes. So I think, like I said, Red Bull, I think, have the better car. Also, in a race situation, Red Bull do tend to be better. We have seen that in the last few races especially. So I think you will see Max Verstappen. Firstly, I think he'll get past Valtteri Bottas very quickly. I don't think Bottas will really stand much of a chance of holding back Max Verstappen. And then I think somehow, some way, Max Verstappen will beat Lewis Hamilton because, like I said, Red Bull car's quicker, so he'll be able to easily, I think, get up to the back of Hamilton and at least stay in that, 1 second window for DRS and be able to punish Hamilton if there's any mistakes and push Hamilton really hard in the Grand Prix today. And I think, like I said, somehow, some way, whether it be in the pit stop phase or on track, Max Verstappen will overtake Lewis Hamilton in this Grand Prix today. And Max Verstappen, in my opinion, will win this race. And if he does, by the way, guys, and Lewis Hamilton was to finish in 2nd, and even if Hamilton, say, got the fastest lap point as well, then Verstappen would be on 14 points going into the final race, meaning that all Max would have to do in Abu Dhabi is finish in P4, and Max would be the world champion. So if Max does win this Grand Prix, then unless something crazy happens in the final Grand Prix, it's probably over, the fight for the Drivers' Championship. You never know, though. In Abu Dhabi, something crazy could happen. So yeah, I think Max Verstappen will win. Lewis Hamilton will finish in second. Valtteri Bottas will finish in third. Perez will finish in fourth. And in fifth place, I will go with Charles Leclerc. And like I said, I think we are in for a good race today. I think we are in, definitely up front, for a good battle that we're going to be. I think after this race, we're all going to be, you know, pretty happy with what we get out of this Grand Prix. Just quickly reading my text a moment from Nib. Right, yeah, he won't be on because I think he overslept, which is fine. I'm hoping, and he probably will be, because I think the final Grand Prix is at a better time for him. He should be on next weekend, and possibly as well for my season review stream, which I'll get into, by the way, in my race reaction stream. I'll get into, you know, whether... I'll get into the details of the season review stream and, you know, the content next weekend, which there will be a bit more content next weekend than there has been this weekend. But guys, let me know right now in the live chat, who do you think is going to win the race, finishing second, third, fourth and fifth? Let me know, and I'll read out as many as I can before we get going. Right, let me just find the start of these predictions that I can see in chat already, and go through them. So, Silverback Orangutan says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Lando, Gasly. Super Mario Riley says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Ricardo, Sainz. Blue Flag Alpha says Max, Hamilton, Perez. Neil Burke says Bottas, Mazepin, Hamilton, Lando, Alonso. KG says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Gasly, Leclerc, Perez. Dylan Forrestal says Valtteri, Perez, Charles. I'm assuming he thinks that Lewis and Max will take each other out. By the way, if Lewis and Max were to take each other out, of course, that would benefit Max Verstappen, because all Max would then have to do at the final race is finish in second place, and he would be world champion, even if Lewis Hamilton was to win the race and get the fastest lap point as well. Long Lexus, I think it is, says Hamilton, Max, Perez, Bottas, Leclerc for his prediction, or her prediction. Bravomoz says Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Leclerc, Norris. Rooksfoot, great to see, mate, says Hamilton, Bottas, Max, Perez, Norris, Leclerc. Let me see if there's any others. EJZ says Hamilton today will DNF for Verstappen champion. Is there any other predictions? Nope, can't see any at the moment. But if you have just joined the stream and you've not been able to post in chat a prediction that you have for the top 5 in the race today, then don't worry, there is still 5.5 minutes to go until the formation lap. And yeah, there's still plenty of time for you to get that in and for me to read it out, as I'll just quickly again blow my nose and I'll be back in just a second. Right, hopefully that should be better for the time being. Prosecutor Darth Desidui, I've probably butchered the end of that name, says Max, Lewis, Leclerc, Perez, Bottas. Michael says Hamilton, Vettel, Gasly. Ronan Brady says Hamilton to crash, Max to win, and useless Bottas to drop back. Of course, we'll see if Bottas can somehow for Mercedes have an effect on what happens in this Grand Prix. As the F1 intro on the TV broadcast is now playing, so not long now until this Grand Prix, and I cannot wait, honestly, to see what happens here, because given the circumstances of the championship and who has what in terms of points, this, you could argue, is more important than the final race, because Max has the chance to literally win the championship outright and, officially. But even if he doesn't win it officially but finishes ahead of Lewis Hamilton, then he essentially does, like I said, unless something crazy happens in the final race, he then essentially does win the championship. So that's why this Grand Prix is absolutely extra critical. As the tyre compounds, by the way, for this Grand Prix this weekend, C4, C3, C2. And in terms of tyre wear, not been that bad, to be honest, the tyre wear around this circuit, despite the amount of turns. We're only expecting one pit stop. It is, a minute and 30 something per lap in terms of how quickly they go around here. And it is only, though, 50 lap Grand Prix. So I don't think you'll see a two-stop race today. The only way you'll see that is if there is a safety car at the right time. That is one thing I will say. Pretty much guaranteed to have a safety car because of how this track is and how tight it is in certain sectors of the circuit. And I think I'll now get my graphics ready for you guys as we're about to get going. And on screen there, an AlphaTauri. And let me just get up the running order. That's the starting grid. I'll read that out in just a moment. Of course, I'll start that lap counter when the race does get underway, as the formation lap will be underway in just a moment. But guys, your starting grid for today's 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is as follows. Lewis Hamilton starts on pole position. Valtteri Bottas is second. Max Verstappen third. Charles Leclerc fourth. Sergio Perez fifth. Pierre Gasly sixth. Lando Norris is seventh. Yuki Tsunoda eighth. Ninth, Esteban Ocon. 10th, Antonio Giovinazzi. Ricciardo P11. Raikkonen P12. Alonso P13. Russell P14. Sainz P15. And then Latifi, Vettel, Stroll, Schumacher and Mazepin rounding out the field. And a reminder that if Max Verstappen today outscores Lewis Hamilton by 18 points, then Max Verstappen will be the first ever Dutch world champion. It's as simple as that. And since 2010, the driver on pole and a new circuit has always gone on to win the world championship, just to read out the stats they're showing on screen at the moment. And of course, I will let you guys know when it comes to the starting tyre situation. And just looking, so everyone in the top 10 is on mediums except Lando Norris. Lando Norris will be starting on the soft compound tyre. And then outside the top 10, Ricciardo, Sainz, and I think the two Aston Martins are on the hard compound tyre. And then everyone else outside the top 10 is on the medium. So Ricciardo and Sainz wanting to go pretty long into this Grand Prix, so they could try and make it all up at the end, most likely on the soft compound tyres. The formation lap will be underway in just a moment. And in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the formation lap begins. So another couple minutes and we'll be getting the race started for real. And we'll see. Down to turn 1. A turn 1, by the way, not just a turn 1, a turn 1 and 2, the first chicane, that if you've seen F2 so far, you know that accidents at the first chicane are very, very possible, given how tight the track is, and also given how wide these F1 cars are. But I'll just quickly, for the final time before we get started, blow my nose quickly and then be back. Right. So, just seeing on the screen, the predicted pit stop strategy is a 1-stop, medium to hard, or the other one is a 2-stop, starting on the medium, going onto the hard, and then going on to another set of mediums. But you'd have to pit for that set of hard compound tyres earlier than you would do if you were trying a 1-stop. But I don't think we will see a 2-stop race today. I think it will be a 1-stop race, unless there is a safety car at, say, the midway point of the Grand Prix, or in the last 10 laps or something like that. As Lewis Hamilton is, I don't know what part of the track he's on. He's actually just coming into the final sector now through turn 22. Very quick corner, and a corner that could be very important when it comes to getting moves done today. Because if you're the driver behind, if you can follow closely through that corner onto the final DRS zone that ends at the final corner, the entry to the final corner, then you could be in a very good position to make up a position. As Lewis Hamilton is now, he's just coming through the final corner now, and now we're looking at Charles Leclerc on board. Person who had a very big crash on Friday, thankfully though, has got it all together and is looking much better since. As the two Mercedes are now on the starting grid, just doing their final tyre warm-up. And Hamilton, in a moment, will line up on the grid. And Hamilton just about now as the Crown Prince, I think will do the... Or is he, no, he's just going to be watching the start of the race from a high vantage point just above, which is, I have to say, a nice view. And Hamilton, I think he might be pointing his car to cover off Bottas there. We'll see if he can do that. As the race should be underway in just a moment. We're just waiting now for the final 10 or so drivers to line up on the starting grid. And now the two Aston Martins and now the two Haas's line up at the back. Max Verstappen can win the championship today. Can he do it? Let's see. 5 lights and lights out and away we go. And Hamilton has got a good start there. Max Verstappen not really able to do anything about Valtteri Bottas. Perez, though, is he ahead of Charles Leclerc? Not quite. Leclerc holds it around the outside, loses the rear end slightly, but Perez, I don't think will get the move done. No, he will not. As Daniel Ricciardo has made a great start there. I think he's up to 8th or 9th place in the McLaren, as now they come through the start of the lap through the first sector. Max Verstappen, by the way, right up behind Valtteri Bottas, not letting Valtteri get away at all at the start here. And then you got Leclerc, Perez, Norris, and then Ocon, I believe, in what would be 7th or 8th place. As they're now midway through the second sector. And move there. Is it Yuki Tsunoda trying to go right round the outside of an Alpine, but he can't get it done, and now he'll be slow on the exit of that corner, allowing Kimi Raikkonen to get a run on him, as now there's an Alpine of Fernando Alonso right behind Giovinazzi, and they've cut away, sadly, so we can't see what was going to happen with that move. But Norris is up to 6th, and then you've got Ocon in P7. Gasly is 8th. Ricciardo is up to P9. And then Giovinazzi is P10, with Fernando Alonso in P11. Tsunoda has had a very poor start, down from 8th place all the way down to P12, as Carlos Sainz has made up a couple positions. And he's got Kimi Raikkonen, though, right behind him on the run down to turn 1. as Ricciardo trying to, on the hard compound tyre, trying to pass Gasly there, as Raikkonen tries to pass Carlos Sainz, but he cannot get it done, and he's now under pressure from Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin. Yeah, the top 10 is Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, and then Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Ricciardo, and now Alonso is in 10th place. Giovinazzi 11th, and then Tsunoda is in P12. Carlos Sainz is up to 13th. Raikkonen is 14th. Vettel 15th. Stroll 16th, and then Russell 17th. Schumacher 18th. Latifi 19th, and Mazepin is in P20, of course, where he belongs. So now we'll see what happens as the race begins to settle down. Max Verstappen still keeping with the Mercedes cars. As an incident between Stroll and Russell at turn 7, I'm going to guess on the first lap, has been noted by race control. Yeah, Max Verstappen, like I said, he's keeping with Bottas and Hamilton, not letting them get away. But most importantly for Mercedes, Bottas is in between the two championship protagonists. Hamilton does the new fastest lap of the race and is leading by about 1.1 seconds over Valtteri Bottas, and Verstappen about 1.1 behind Bottas. So 2.3, 2.4 covering covering the top three. As it is a replay of the start. So Leclerc was looking at the inside of Max Verstappen, then backed off quite early. That's what allowed Sergio Perez to go steaming in around the outside. Locked up, though, and then Leclerc got him around the outside. Here's a replay from Verstappen's on board. And, I mean, there was a possibility, very small possibility, of a around the outside move there, but he just didn't get a good enough getaway compared to Bottas to really go for that overtake. So thankfully he didn't try anything stupid there. And here is now, and yeah, I thought I saw contact between Tsunoda and Ocon. There was Ocon's left front wheel making contact with the side pod of Tsunoda. That may be why Tsunoda did what he did, or had the poor start that he had. And right, so that's what's been noted. So Stroll, I think, overtaking Russell off the circuit. We'll see if anything happens in regards to, Stroll having to let Russell back through. As Lewis Hamilton, now on lap 4, does another new fastest lap. He leads by 1.4 seconds. And yeah, Russell has passed Stroll. I'm going to assume that Russell has been, or that Stroll, has been told to let Russell back through. As Carlos Sainz now overtakes Yuki Tsunoda for P12. Remember, Ricciardo and Sainz, who have both, as now Stroll gets back past Russell very quickly. Ricciardo and Sainz, two drivers who have made up good positions so far. They're both on the hard compound tyre, so that is good information for the other teams who are not on the hard tyre right now to, as to how good that tyre is performing. And at the moment, you have to say the tyre is looking pretty good. As Sainz, here's a replay of him passing Tsunoda, got the DRS and sailed around the outside. I think did go a bit wide, did Carlos Sainz. But he did get the move done and is clearly much quicker than the people around him. As Valtteri Bottas, only 1.1 seconds behind on this lap. Valtteri looks as though he's about to do the fastest lap of the race, or maybe even Max Verstappen. As, now on lap 5 out of 50, and Valtteri Bottas does do the new fastest lap of 1:33.5. Both Bottas and Verstappen were quicker than Hamilton on that lap. Interesting to note. As Ricciardo, on the hard compound tyre, is within a second of Pierre Gasly, who is in P8. And yeah, Ricciardo looking very, very good here. As Leclerc and Perez, by the way, pulled clearly a massive gap to the rest of the midfield. Leclerc already 5.5 seconds almost ahead of Lando Norris. So Leclerc is looking very, very good here. And Perez can't even get within a second of Charles Leclerc. So, yeah, Leclerc looking very, very strong. We've seen this before with Charles Leclerc this season, that his pace compared to drivers who are in better cars, his pace has still been absolutely phenomenal. So we've seen that he can do it. As we're now looking at Kimi Räikkönen in his penultimate race of his F1 career, currently down in 14th place, chasing Yuki Tsunoda very hard for 13th. And I think he does have DRS, and yes, he does have DRS on Yuki Tsunoda, but he won't be closing in enough to be going for an overtake. And Lewis Hamilton, now we're on lap 6 out of 50. Lewis Hamilton does another fastest lap, a 1:33.3. Pulls the gap to Bottas to 1.4 seconds. So he's about 0.3 of a second quicker on that lap. As Giovinazzi here, DRS on Alonso. And Alonso goes deep into the corner, goes wide. Alonso should be allowed to keep that position. Saying that, in the F2 race yesterday, Deruvala, who was leading the race, did that when Piastri was trying for a move. And even though Piastri didn't actually attempt an overtake, Deruvala went off in a similar way to Alonso did just then. And Deruvala got a 5-second penalty. So we'll see what the stewards think of that. But honestly, I think Alonso should be able to keep the position because Giovinazzi wasn't really, throwing his car up the inside or around the outside and really trying for an overtake there. As Valtteri Bottas just said on team radio, could do with a bit more of a gap up front. So I'm guessing he wants Hamilton to pull away so he can not be affected, Valtteri, by the turbulent air of Lewis's car. So he then could do his race. As Giovinazzi continues to pursue Fernando Alonso. Good to see that Giovinazzi is not doing what he does usually do in races, which is drop back after a good grid position. He's looking pretty quick here. And Alonso just simply carried way too much speed into the corner. And here now, back live, Daniel Ricciardo trying for a move on Pierre Gasly. Hasn't got it done. Giovinazzi and Alonso side by side into turn 1 and turn 2. And Giovinazzi has got the position. So well done to Antonio. I'd like to see a replay of that because I think Antonio went round the outside of Fernando there. So, Gasly, he keeps his position in 8th place, ahead of Ricciardo 9th. And Giovinazzi is now up to P10. By the way, Hamilton leading by 1.7 seconds. And then Max Verstappen is in 3rd place, of course, behind Valtteri Bottas. And he's about 1.5 seconds behind Bottas. As here we go. And yeah, great move from Giovinazzi right round the outside of a 2-time world champion. That is champagne stuff from the Italian, who, of course, is off to race in Formula E next season. It is a shame that he's not going to be on the grid because I think he does deserve a better car because I actually think his pace is pretty good for this level of motorsport. But sadly, that's just the way Formula 1 in life is. Just isn't fair. As Hamilton was slower than Bottas and Max on that lap, but is still 1.5 seconds clear of his teammate. As now Ricciardo, within a second of Gasly on the hard compound tyre, Gasly defends to the inside, down the pit straight, and Ricciardo down to turn 1, gets the move done, and he is up to P8. As Carlos Sainz now sends it down the inside of Fernando Alonso and easily gets it done. Alonso, I think, pretty much letting him go. Or is he? Alonso, is he trying for a move? No, he is not. I think Alonso there, honestly, was letting him go because the Ferrari is clearly quicker. and that hard compound tyre as well is working really, really well. And we'll see a replay of Ricciardo and Gasly. And Ricciardo easily getting the move done. And yeah, in the background, Sainz throwing it down the inside of Fernando Alonso at turn 1, and Alonso just let him go. Of course, his compatriot. And we'll now wait to see what the next move, what the next overtake in this race is. But been a decent race so far in Saudi, as Yuki Tsunoda now has DRS on Fernando Alonso. Alonso has no pace right now. He's just falling back continuously, which honestly I am surprised about, considering his teammate is up in P7 and looking pretty quick. You would think that Alonso would not be dropping back the way he is, but yeah, Alonso right now has absolutely no speed in that Alpine, as now Yuki Tsunoda opens the DRS on the pit straight and will be looking to go for an overtake down to turn 1, but he is too far behind. I'll just quickly blow my nose and then we'll get back to the action. And yeah, Yuki Tsunoda, by the way, 1.4 seconds quicker than Fernando on the previous lap. So yeah, Fernando, there's something a bit awry with that car. It's, by the way, Lewis Hamilton, now on lap 9. He has just done the fastest lap of the race, and he's on another, I think, fastest lap attempt. Hamilton now 2.5 seconds ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen is 1.2 seconds behind Bottas. Max has got to get within a second of Valtteri Bottas here, because if he doesn't, then Mercedes and their game plan here is working to a T. And you have to say that my prediction, as Carlos Sainz here getting very close to Antonio Giovinazzi, as Hamilton now on lap 10 does another new fastest lap of 133.1. My analysis as Sainz, will he pass Giovinazzi here? Not quite. I'll probably get him down the pit straight. My analysis that, you know, oh, and big crash, big crash. That is going to be a safety car for sure, surely. And it is Mick Schumacher. And yeah, there you go. Safety car deployed just as Carlos Sainz overtakes Antonio Giovinazzi. So we'll see if that was done during the safety car period. We'll have to see. But Mick Schumacher has gone into the barriers at turn 22, where Charles Leclerc had his big accident in Friday practice, as Latifi has just jumped up to 16th place, and that is because Russell and Stroll very nicely have made a pit stop. And because they were so far back, they were able to, to make that pit stop, which of course means they'll have fresher tyres for the restart of the race. I don't think you'll see anyone else come in for a pit stop, because I don't really see, given the gaps between the cars, don't really see what can be gained at this current phase. Saying that, Mercedes are coming out in the pits for Lewis Hamilton, it looks like, with a set of hard compound tyres. Will he pit, though? And where will he come out? Because if Hamilton pits, is he going to pit? Yes, he does. Hamilton is pitting. Bottas, by the way, is holding up Max Verstappen, an absolute treat behind. But I was going to say, if Hamilton comes out in traffic in the midfield, then Verstappen may be able to, and Verstappen has stayed out on track, as Hamilton and Bottas have come into the pits. Hamilton comes out in second position. I was going to say, Hamilton came out in traffic. That might actually play into Max Verstappen's favour there, as Lando Norris now pits. Plenty of people now pitting. And the order now massively different from what it was. So Max Verstappen, guys, is into the lead, but he hasn't pitted yet. Hamilton and Bottas have. Have Mercedes committed themselves to a two-stop, or are they going to go to the end? That is something we will have to look out for, because if Mercedes have to pit again, then Max Verstappen is in a great position because he has track position. So Verstappen is leading from Hamilton second, Bottas third, and then Ocon is now fourth. Ricciardo is in fifth. Ocon and Ricciardo, though, have not pitted yet, so that's why they are now up in those positions. And then you've got Leclerc sixth, Gasly P7. Gasly hasn't pitted yet either, I don't think. And then Perez 8th, Sainz in 9th. And here is a replay, probably of Verstappen complaining about Valtteri Bottas holding him up. But technically, he is allowed to do that, is Valtteri. Because, what do you call it? Because as long as you're sticking to the delta, or, you know, you're not going any quicker than the delta, then you're allowed to technically get away with doing that. Yeah, the top 10 is now Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Ocon, Ricciardo. And here's a replay. And yeah, Mick Schumacher, same reason as Charles Leclerc's crash at turn 22 on Friday. Lost the rear end. He actually lost it in the middle of the corner rather than at the start of the corner like Leclerc did on Friday. But we've said before, the Haas car this season has been very loose at the rear end, and that's another example of it. And Mick is out. But let me just do the top 10 order. Just a moment. So Verstappen is in the lead. Verstappen has not pitted yet. Hamilton is second. Bottas is third. Ocon is fourth. Ocon has not pitted. Ricciardo fifth. Ricciardo has not pitted. Leclerc sixth. Leclerc has pitted. Gasly seventh. Gasly has not pitted. Perez has pitted. He's P8. And then you've got Carlos Sainz ninth. Giovinazzi 10th. They've both not pitted. Tsunoda is P11. Tsunoda is not pitted. Neither is Raikkonen, who is P12. And neither has Sebastian Vettel, who is 13th. And then Norris is 14th. Norris has pitted. Let me just do it quickly. Yeah, Norris is 14th. Norris has pitted. Alonso has pitted. And Alonso is 15th. And yeah, the safety car notice came out after Sainz passed Giovinazzi. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, it did. So Carlos Sainz should be able to keep that position of P9. And yeah, that's the top 15. And then Mazepin, Russell, Stroll, and Latifi, the rest of the field. And then, of course, Mick Schumacher 20th, because Mick Schumacher is out. Really blowing my nose there. Lots of snot, I have to say. We're now on lap 12 out of 50. And still under safety car conditions. Probably be under a safety car for another lap or two if I was to hazard a guess. But what is now going to happen up front? Will Mercedes do a two-stop? As of course they've already done their first pit stop. Will they pit again? Or will they be staying out to the end? If they stay out to the end, then I think that gives them the best chance of victory if they stay out to the end of the Grand Prix. Because so far, at least at the front of the field, it looks though it's pretty hard to follow. Harder than I expected, honestly, for the cars to follow there. So yeah, if I was Mercedes, now that they've pitted and moved on to the hard tyre, if I was Mercedes, I would keep Hamilton and Bottas out until the end of the race. Max, though, of course, has to pit again. But when does Max pit? And will Max be under threat from Lewis and Valtteri behind? Or will Max be able to pull a gap to Lewis and Valtteri? If he can, then that could bode well for, whether Mercedes do pit again or don't pit again. But it's hard to say right now what's going to happen up front because of that pit stop. And I have to say, I'd rather be in the shoes of Mercedes because pretty sure that hard compound tyre will be able to get to the end of the race. We've only got 37 laps to go. And I'm pretty sure the hard tyre will be able to do 37 laps easy around this circuit. So, yeah, you'd have to be in Mercedes shoes at this point if you were to pick. But you never know in Formula 1. Never know what could happen. Max Verstappen could pull a gap and end up still getting the last laugh at the very end. As they're now coming through on lap 13, midway through this lap. And we'll see when the safety car will come back in. Can't see yet. And red flag. I'm going to guess that's because the barriers... Yeah, the barriers need a bit of a repair. Not a massive one, but a bit of a repair. So the race has been red flagged. Let me just... there you go. They're under red flag on lap 13 out of 50. Once they park up in the pit lane, it'll be lap 14 out of 50. But, yeah, red flag. And they're just going to quickly repair that barrier because it is a corner where, there could be another car going to that barrier as yet. And if it's not the barrier, if it's not in its best condition, then of course that will have an effect on the condition of the car and driver in terms of their health. So that does need to be repaired. It shouldn't, though, take that long. As now they will come into the pits following, of course, the safety car. And actually, I just thought, and I think Hamilton is shaking his head, and he should be, because I have just remembered the rules under a red flag. Under a red flag, you are allowed to change your tyres. So Max Verstappen can now change his tyres. So there you go. Max Verstappen has done absolutely nothing and is now leading the race. And when the race gets going again, he will be the leader no matter what, strategy he's on or Mercedes on. Doesn't matter now, because Max Verstappen will be able to put on a new set of tyres, probably the hard tyres, and go to the end of the race. So that has worked an absolute treat for Max and Red Bull. I don't know if they maybe were guessing or hoping that was going to happen, that red flag, but that is, for Red Bull, the biggest piece of luck they've had probably in their entire existence. And that could give Max Verstappen the race win today and possibly the World Championship. But right now, we're under red flag conditions, and a reminder of the order going into this red flag. It is Max Verstappen in the lead, and then Hamilton second, Bottas third, Ocon fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Leclerc sixth, Gasly seventh, Perez eighth, Carlos Sainz in ninth, Giovinazzi 10th, and then Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Vettel, Norris, Alonso, Mazepin, Russell, Stroll, Latifi, and that is the order. And then Mick Schumacher is 20th. Mick Schumacher is out of the race because he has caused the red flag, crashing at turn 22. He is okay, thankfully, but the barriers are not, which is why we have a red flag, and I'm going to guess it'll probably be about 15 to 20 minutes at least waiting for the race to resume. So, because we have a red flag, guys, I want you guys in the chat to, keep me entertained and to, if you want to ask me any questions or give any comments about the race, then make sure to post it right now in the live chat. And during the red flag period, I will read out, as many comments as I can before the race is resumed. And like I said, I don't think it'll be too long until the race is resumed, because it's not a massive fix that they're going to have to conduct on the Tech Pro barrier. And Hamilton looking already dishevelled and down because he knows that Max, without doing anything really, has been given an open goal to the race win and the World Championship. And of course, when they get going again, that Red Bull will not be on the medium compound tyre. It will be on the hard compound tyre, I'm expecting. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly blow my nose, and then I will get reading your comments out in chat. Right, let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Great to see Nib, by the way, in chat. Let me just find some comments here. And yeah, just to confirm, people are asking, can Max put on a new set of tyres? Yes, he can, and that's what they will be doing. So, yeah, Max Verstappen has been gifted through, doing absolutely nothing, been gifted a free pit stop. And Mercedes, their drivers, look absolutely distraught, honestly, at that. But who could have foreseen that we would be under now red flag conditions? Blue flag Alpha, just like Imola, where Lewis is lucky. I'd say Max is a lot luckier than Lewis was. Because Max, this could gift Max the win when Lewis still had to do the work to get back to second place. Brabham saying there'll be a couple more safety cars, let's be honest. To be honest, I was actually quite surprised we got to lap 14 without, or lap 10, 11-ish without a safety car. I thought we would definitely have a safety car on the first lap, but we didn't. As Helmut Marko is just sitting down, having a chat with Max Verstappen, and I think Max having a chat as well with his engineer. Mike Post says, will Bottas, or in his words, will Bottles get a penalty for driving too slow? No, he won't. Again, because the rules under a safety car state that you have to drive slower than the delta time you're given on your dash. So as long as you go slower than your delta, doesn't matter how slow, then then you can do what he did. And as well, I know people may say, well, you can't, obviously block in a safety car instance like that, but he wasn't really blocking Verstappen. He wasn't moving across the track or anything. He was just driving slowly. That's all he was doing. Let me find some other comments here quick. It looks as though they're doing some good work on the barriers at the moment. The last word saying red flag my arse. As race will resume at 21:15 local time. So that is in 9 minutes time. So not long now. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, this wouldn't have been a red flag, but I think it is the right decision. Nib says, incorrect, Chaz. He slowed unnecessarily, which he did. We've seen it before, though, and it's not been given as a penalty, so I don't think it will. We haven't seen it under investigation yet, so I don't think it'll be given as a penalty. Plus, Bottas and Mercedes haven't gained anything from it, so I don't think he'll get a penalty for that. I mean, he was driving unnecessarily slowly, don't get me wrong. He was... We all know what he was doing. He was trying to hold up Max Verstappen as much as possible to give Lewis Hamilton a big buffer to pit and hopefully come out ahead of Verstappen, but it didn't work. But like I said, that incident doesn't matter anymore because Max has the lead and has track position, so Max won't care anymore. Blue Flag Alpha, what mic do you use for streaming? It's a Rode microphone. RODE, if you want the spelling on that. And yeah, I've had it for 3 years, I think now. 3.5 years. And yes, good microphone. Super Mario, who's your favourite driver, track and team? I have to clarify, when I say favourite driver and team, this doesn't mean I support these particular, drivers or teams. They're just, the ones I like the most. Favorite driver, probably Perez. Favorite team, I'd probably still say Ferrari. Even I do criticize them a lot, but they are the team I always gravitate to. And favorite track for me is... I'd probably say Suzuka is my favourite track. Right, let's see some other comments here quickly before we get going. Nib's saying, I did predict a red flag because when you crash into the Tech Pro like that, you have to jump in between to fix things. Ronan saying, Chaz, Bottas was so blatant that I'd be surprised if there was no penalty. I'm not saying... it shouldn't be. I'm saying I don't think it will be because what has Valtteri and Mercedes in the end gained from it? That doesn't mean that it like for example, if Hamilton had come out ahead of Verstappen after Hamilton's pit stop there because Valtteri had held him up so much, then yeah, you'd probably have to give him a penalty, but. If you look at the situation in the race now, I don't see the point because Valtteri's not gained anything from it. And I'm not just saying that because of the red flag, I'm saying it also because of the safety car. What did Mercedes gain out of it, really? Because Max still got track position over Hamilton. So, in the end, didn't really gain anything out of it. So, I wouldn't really... give a penalty for that. And like I said, now with this situation, the red flag where Max has very luckily got the lead and is now, can do his pit stop, can make his free pit stop and put on the new set of tyres, which I'm pretty sure will be the hard compound tyre. He now can then, be in, no pun intended, the pole position now to win this Grand Prix. So it doesn't really matter anymore. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets a penalty, but, I wouldn't be surprised if they just forget about it. Bramamore says the internet going to break when Lewis and Max come together on the restart. Let's hope that doesn't happen. As Sky F1 just showing some replays from some onboards of the start of the race. And yeah, the race, guys, will resume in 5 minutes' time. So get ready for the restart. And you never know, there is still another 36 laps to go. So there is still plenty of time for Hamilton and Mercedes to rescue the victory. Mike Post says, but Bottas gave Hamilton 5 seconds. Like I said, didn't really matter in the end. Didn't take long to fix. The barriers did it. That red flag was bullshit, says Ken Waller. Or Waller. I think it was justified. Like I said, that barrier normally, because of the way the corner is, it is possible that we could have another accident at that corner. So the barriers do need to be in the best condition possible. Will it be a rolling start or standing? It will be a standing restart, I'm pretty sure, because I think we've had some red flags this season where we've had a standing restart. So get ready for another chaotic run down to turn 1. As Rook in the chat saying, going to be exciting. Hamilton was pulling / holding the gap in the first part of the race, and I think his tyres from qualifying had more laps than Verstappen because he bluffed his first attempt. Yeah, I think Hamilton, and I have to stress this, just because Max Verstappen has been able now to make a free pit stop and now has track position, doesn't mean the race is over at all. Does not mean the race is over at all. Because Hamilton, like Rook was saying, was very quick in the first 10 laps of the Grand Prix. And we know Lewis Hamilton is good enough to still win this race. We know that. So it's not over at all. So don't think that, well, that's the race decided. Because, like I said, it could still be decided by an overtake on track. And really, I don't think you'll see another pit stop in this Grand Prix unless there's another safety car or red flag period. So it should be, if there's going to be any change in position, it should be decided by an overtake on the circuit. But I'll get the lap counter back up in just a moment. Rossi Gunol says, you're asking the wrong question. The question should be, what would they have gained, not what have they gained. I don't... If Bottas went any slower, then he would have basically... You could have argued then that that Max Verstappen, you know, could be allowed to overtake because you're not allowed to go that slowly. And I still, when I'm asking that question of, you know, what did they gain really out of it? That's not the question I'm really asking. That's the way the FIA looks at it, because we've seen in the last 2 years, the stewards, especially under the leadership, well, not leadership, but, you know, under Michael Massey, we've seen that even like jump starts have not got punished because they'll look at, you know, did they gain anything from it? I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying in terms of, will he get a penalty or not? Because he didn't gain anything in the end from it, I don't think he will get a penalty. Should he get a penalty? Probably. But again, the stewards, they're not going to look at it like that. They're going to look at it from the point of view of, did he gain anything? And the clear answer to that is no. So I don't think he'll get a penalty. And I think if he was going to get a penalty, you would see the race control flash on screen that he was under investigation, but we haven't seen that yet. But anyway, let me get rid of that and get this back up on screen. And it is now lap 14 out of 50. And the race, by the way, will restart in half a minute. And Max Verstappen, now you can see, as they take the tyre covers off, he is indeed on a new set of hard compound tyres. So the free pit stop has been taken. And Max Verstappen is now in the best position possible to get the race win, of course. And to secure mostly the World Championship for this year. And now we should have the safety car leading the pack away. And yes, we do. So it should be just one lap behind the safety car. Then they will line up on the starting grid and do a standing restart at what will be lap 15 out of 50 when they come to the starting grid. as Sergio Perez, back in the pack, has been put on another set of medium tyres. I'm going to guess, because he's down in P8 and lost position because of that pit stop he made under the safety car, I'm going to guess he's done that, or Red Bull, sorry, have done that, to get his way up the order. Because, of course, he is massively in P8 out of position there, is Sergio Perez. But we'll see if Lewis Hamilton can prevent Max Verstappen capitalising on that piece of fortune for the red flag and the standing restart. And if Lewis Hamilton wants to win the World Championship, it's simple now. He has to overtake Max Verstappen on circuit today. And if he doesn't, then most likely the championship is over. As fans waving there, as race control just saying safety car will enter the pits, and that it just confirming that it will be indeed a standing start. And I'll just quickly mute my microphone just to clear my throat, clear my airways for the restart of this Grand Prix. So, in about half a minute, or not half a minute, probably a minute or so, we should be getting this race back underway. So, everyone, by the way, is on a hard compound tyre except for Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and Carlos Sainz, and also Sebastian Vettel and Nicholas Latifi. Everybody else is on a new set of hard compound tyres. As Verstappen on this, I guess you'd call it second formation lap, is just coming into the final corner now. Coming through the final corner, where of course he crashed in qualifying, and now Hamilton and Bottas come through that corner as well. And now we'll see what Hamilton and Bottas can do about the lone Red Bull on pole position. We just switch it over to lap 15. Out of 50. And Verstappen just warming his tyres up. He's left quite a big gap, or actually a Mercedes are backing up quite a bit. They don't want to be sat on the grid too long. And they're going to leave, or they're going to attempt to leave Max Verstappen sitting on the grid a bit longer than he would ideally want. As Verstappen and the two Mercedes are now lined up on the grid. And now the front half of the field lines up. Sainz and Giovinazzi, the last two in the top 10 to line up on the grid. And now the second part of the grid, the bottom 9, will now line up for this, I guess you could now call 35 lap Grand Prix. So, just seeing Stroll and Latifi to the back of the grid. Max Verstappen given a massive piece of fortune. Can he capitalise on it now with the restart of the Grand Prix? We're now 3 lights, 4 lights and 5 lights in Saudi Arabia, and lights out and away we go. And Lewis Hamilton gets a great start, and Hamilton is into the lead here in Saudi. Max Verstappen tries to go around the outside and pushes Hamilton wide, and Ocon, is he up to second? Yes he is. Verstappen is, I have to say, oh, Perez into the barriers, and oh, that's going to be a safety car. Jesus Christ. Something in the background happened. I'm pretty sure the driver's okay. That's got to be a safety car, surely, in the background. But Max is up to P1. Well, he lost P1, got back to P1. And, oh, there you go. Mazepin smashed to pieces. His car is on the, or in between, turn 4 and 5, I believe. And why is there not... Why is the safety car... And Russell... That Russell? Yes, it is. Another red flag. Jesus fucking Christ, guys. Get it together. It's only a 50-lap fucking race. So it's a red flag yet again. Russell, Perez, and Mazepin, by the look of it, are out. Well... That was much of nothing. I mean, the start was, restart was pretty exciting. But, yeah. We're now back under red flag. Thankfully, though, I don't think this will take too long, you know, for the race to get back underway. Because all they've got to do is clear away the cars and the debris, rather than, you know, the barrier. As Russell, by the way, is out of the race as well. So you got Russell out of the race, Mazepin out of the race, and I think we'll see if Sergio Perez is out, because his car's parked, but I don't know if he's still in it or not. Hamilton, here's a replay of the start. He got past at the start. Verstappen went right round the outside, and Max Verstappen, I think... Well, let me see a replay. Let me see another replay, and then I'll make my statement before I anger an entire fucking country. So, yeah, Verstappen has got to get a penalty for that. He overtook Hamilton off the circuit. And Hamilton, I don't think Hamilton unfairly pushed Max out. Max overtook Lewis off the circuit. There is no doubt about that. And then pushed Hamilton wide. That then allowed Ocon up the inside, and then Ocon took the position. Thing is, even if Max gets a penalty for that, let's say a 5-second penalty, because Ocon is in second and in the way, that could give Max that 5-second buffer to Hamilton. And here's a replay of Perez. So Perez gets a very good start, gets up to about 6th, I think. Gets past... Oh, he gets in a sandwich there, doesn't he? In between Leclerc and Gasly, and then gets tapped into a spin. I don't know what happened with Mazepin. Here is a replay of Charles Leclerc from P7. Gets a great start as well. There's clearly a gap down the inside. Decides, rightfully so, not to go for it. And then almost makes contact with Ricciardo. And then, yeah, and there's nothing Leclerc could do. It's just too tight of a... the racetrack there's too tight. 3 cars are not going to go through that little kink. And then Mazepin, that's why Russell's out. Mazepin went straight into the back, and Russell's car jumped right up in the air. And there's nothing Mazepin could do, because everyone had braked. And yeah, Perez... Sergio Perez is out of the Grand Prix. So, we are under red flag conditions, so now back in the pits. Like I said before, with the last safety car or red flag, let me know in the chat, you know, what you thought of what happened at that restart. Should Max Verstappen be given a penalty? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I will read out your comments, and we'll have a bit of back and forth if needs be. But yeah, we are now on lap 16. I just want to redo the order, though, before we get into who did who. Let me just go on the Formula 1 website and get the exact leaderboard. You guys. Right, so we are under a red flag. It's lap 16 out of 50. We still have a long, long way to go. Given the amount of red flags we've had so far, and probably will have again, we've got a long way to go in this Grand Prix. Verstappen is in the lead. Ocon is second. And then Hamilton is third. Ricciardo is 4th, Bottas is 5th, Gasly is 6th, and then Leclerc is in P7. Giovinazzi had a good start. He's up to P8. Carlos Sainz is 9th. Vettel is 10th in the Aston Martin. Great restart there by Sebastian. He is on the softer compound of the medium tyre, though, so that did help. And then you've got Kimi Raikkonen in P11. Sonoda is 12th. 13th is Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. 14th is Lance Stroll. Aston Martin benefiting a lot from these red flags. Stroll 14th. And then, Latifi is in 15th. Norris is down to P16. So maybe him having to slow down and get out the way of cars hampered him there. Norris is 16th. And then Perez, Mazepin and Russell and Schumacher now are out of the race. So we have 4 retirements. Again, that is Perez, Mazepin, Russell, Schumacher. So we've only got 16 cars left in the race. And of course, with Perez now out, that does give a chance to a midfield team to get a good points haul out of this event when we eventually finish the race, which could be... I don't know when that could be, to be honest. Let me now read the chat. But let me know, guys, right now in the chat, between now and the restart of the race, should Max Verstappen get a penalty for what he did, overtaking Lewis Hamilton, off the circuit? Let me know. Let me just find the first few comments. Chaz, calm down. Max illegal, says Martin. Let's see who else. Blue Flag Alpha says Max, you threw it away. Mike Post says Hamilton didn't have Max space. Do you mean didn't leave Max space? I want to see another replay of it for sure. But to me, I don't think Max was gonna get, was gonna go around the outside and get the overtake redone. Let's look at some other comments here. Mike says Max didn't do anything wrong. That's Mike Post. Nibber Gibbs says Hamilton did not give any space. Finster says no penalty. He lost spots in the deal. He didn't. Max Verstappen is still in the lead. So that's not the case. Ocon to win second race of the season. Oh God. Hamilton pushed Max off track. You could see it in the Ferrari's cam. It's better really to look at the onboards from Hamilton and Max really to determine that rather than another car. Can we agree this track is terrible, says Blue Flag Alpha? Yeah. I mean, nobody wants to race here, but we all know why we're here. Let me find some other comments in regards to this. Blue Flag Alpha saying, RIP Red Bull constructor. And race will resume, guys, in 10 minutes. So we'll be back underway for another red flag, most likely. And by the way, it'll be another standing start again. So we could be here all day. Clearly an unfair overtake, says Rossi. Stephen Butt, I'm guessing that's in response to me saying about the penalty. He says yes. Did Hamilton leave enough space? I don't think Hamilton unfairly closed off whatever gap there was. I'm seeing a replay of it off board now. Lewis, I don't think went any deeper than he normally would or should, to force Max off. I don't think that's what happened. And the problem is, and Rook is in the chat saying no penalty other than give place back. He can't, because Ocon is second. So Max would have to obviously let Ocon and Hamilton through. But that wouldn't work. Let them fight. Hamilton will have DRS, so he is in a better position. Not really. Track position is track position. And the FIA and Mercedes and FIA and Red Bull have been on the radio to each other. Would love to know what they're talking about, but obviously don't have the sound on. But if anyone did hear what they were talking about, then make sure to let me know. As I think Hamilton now is just getting back into his car, of course. What do you call it? Race should be getting back underway in 8 minutes or 7 minutes time, something like that. And yeah, the FIA and Red Bull in communication. So we'll see what happens, whether there will be some sort of, swapping a position or a penalty. But as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen so far, and I want to see more replays just to confirm what I think, or, if there's anything I've missed, I'd like to see another replay. From what I've seen so far, Max Verstappen should get a penalty of some sort, because I don't believe, from what I have seen so far, that Max Verstappen was forced into that maneuver. He forced himself into that maneuver because he wanted to get back ahead. Verstappen had a 0.01 of a second better reaction time, but it didn't matter. And we've just seen replays of the start again. And yeah, the Perez, as soon as that kink begun, he was tapped into a spin, and then Mazepin in the background smashed into the back of Russell. And is a further replay of Perez. I'd like to see a Verstappen on board and a Hamilton on board again, though, if I'm being honest. Rather than just Sergio Perez, because, there's nothing controversial about what happened there. Perez, they're showing a replay, I think, of how he retired. His car too badly damaged, I think, at the rear, probably rear suspension. Had a big tag, and then I think maybe a bit of a clout with the wall. There's a replay from Leclerc's on board that shows really what happened, and it's simply, it's nobody's fault. It's because 3 into that corner, into that little kink, doesn't go. Leclerc saying, Perez forgot about me being here, I think. I don't think he forgot about him. He probably just hoped he wasn't quite, there as much as he was. Seeing that replay of Ocon in terms of the Hamilton-Verstappen thing, to be fair, Hamilton didn't really hit the apex. He didn't really, it's not like Hamilton, hit the apex of the corner and was right on where he should be. And yeah, they're just showing a replay of Mazepin and Russell there. And let me just see on Twitter if there's any update as to what's going on. Hamilton and Verstappen, and nothing I can see at the moment. But from what I've seen, I'd still say Verstappen needs to be penalised in some way. shape, or form. And here we go. Replay from the start of Max Verstappen's onboard. Let's see. Hamilton gets ahead. And then I still think Verstappen should get a penalty, because when you're looking at it from on board, even though he brakes later and tries to position himself for an outside move, the move isn't on. The move isn't on. Like, there's no way he is going to get that overtake done and still stay on the track unless he literally bashes Hamilton out of the way. So that's why I think he should be given some sort of penalty, because he clearly gained, and he only got the overtake done by going, off of the circuit. He basically drove his way onto that part of the onto that part of the track, because he knew Hamilton had the position. Lots of people, some people in the chat saying that Max is going to get a penalty. Some people saying he's not going to get a penalty. No idea what's happening. But one thing I do know is that we've got another 2 minutes or so until the race will be getting underway. Just want to say quickly though, don't forget guys to subscribe if you are new to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because I will be live right after this race finishes, as soon as possible, with the race reaction stream for the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And I will be live for the final race of the season next weekend. Not just for the race, but for qualifying and practice 3 on Saturday as well. So don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and hit the notifications bell, and as well smash that like button, please. Really does help the channel grow. And share this video and share the channel around. Again, does help the channel grow. So we'll see what's going to happen at this restart. I've not heard or seen anything as to what's going to happen penalty wise, or will Max let Ocon and Hamilton through? Let me just have a quick look at Twitter just to see. Can't really see anything. We'll see when the race gets restarted. We'll see. Luca Tank says Verstappen will not get a penalty. I'm listening to their radios of FIA. He will give position to Ocon, and Hamilton will restart third. If that's true, then okay, we'll accept that, as long as he's penalised some way, shape, or form. Not because, by the way, I've got some anti-Verstappen, fucking agenda. It's because clearly that was overtaking another car off of the circuit. It's clear as day. So hopefully that does happen. And the race, by the way, will be back underway in just a moment. Let me just update the lap counter. And it will be lap, as Haas F1, by the way, already packing up, of course, both cars out. To be fair, they should have packed up when the season started, because they've not really turned up. And, yeah, we're now lap 16 out of 50. And, well, on this restart, if Max does give the positions up, then if Max gets even a hint of a slipstream on Lewis Hamilton, or not Hamilton, but because obviously he'll have the slipstream Max from Ocon, not Hamilton. But if he gets a hint of a move on Hamilton again, he'll go for it. You can guarantee that. He will go for it. And if he goes off the track again, then, well, that's what will happen. As the race should restart in just a moment. And now, yep, it does. So the safety car will do the same thing. It'll do a, take them round for one lap. It'll come in at the end of the lap, and then they will do a standing start yet again. And there you go. So Max lets Ocon through. Where's Lewis Hamilton? There is Lewis Hamilton. And Max lets Hamilton through as well. So there you go. Max Verstappen gives up position. And that is the fair thing to do because he did overtake Lewis off of the circuit. So, what, 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago, we were saying, oh, look, Max Verstappen, he is in the position now to surely get this win and championship possibly wrapped up. And now, Hamilton second, Verstappen third. It's back in Hamilton's favour. If Hamilton was to finish in second, by the way, with Verstappen third, that's not going to happen because Ocon is not going to win this race. I can tell you that for a fact. If Hamilton, like I said, if he was to somehow finish in second and Verstappen somehow third, then the gap would go down to 5 points going into the final race, meaning that essentially whoever beat who in the final race would be world champion. And to be honest, if Lewis Hamilton wins and Verstappen finishes second, as Max Verstappen, by the way, is on the medium compound tyre, Lewis is on the hard. So Max maybe will be looking to go to the end on that tyre. Of course, under red flag conditions, and the race control just confirming it will be a standing start. Under red flag conditions, you can change your tyre. So even though he only did like one lap on the hard compound tyre, he's obviously put the medium on because he wants to then get back ahead of Hamilton at some point in the Grand Prix. And the hard tyres will take a bit of a time to fire up around this circuit. As Ocon leading the pack through the are they into the final sector now? No, not quite. They're just entering the last few meters of the second sector. Now Ocon will lead them into the third sector and we'll get a standing restart here. And indeed, Blue Flag Alpha, it is time for more chaos. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Hopefully we can actually have a green flag race from now until the end. We do have a very unusual order as well, so this is going to be something. It's going to be something. We'll see what it is. As Ocon and Hamilton, by the way, he did not change his compound of tyre under the red flag. He kept the same tyre, which is interesting. I mean, 5 laps on that tyre doesn't really make a difference. And 4 of those laps were, or 4.5 of them weren't even at racing speed. So, yeah, like I said, doesn't really make a difference. As Ocon is about to, in a few moments' time, line up on pole position. The first time he's lined up on pole in a standing restart or a start of a race, I think, ever in Formula One. As Ocon just rolling up to his grid spot. Very slow, I have to say, Esteban Ocon. And Hamilton now pulls to the left and Verstappen to the right. So Verstappen will have the outside line into turn 1. He's on the fresher and softer tyres and he is on the racing line, even though really dirty side of the track here doesn't really matter because they cross over on that straight. So, like I said, it doesn't really matter as we're now on lap 17 out of 50. As the bottom few just lining up on the grid, the last driver to line up will be Lando Norris in 16th place, who has had a pretty bad race so far. Not through anything he's done or McLaren have done, but just simply bad luck. So, as Norris lines up, Verstappen couldn't keep his lead. Can he get it back somehow as the lights now go out in Saudi Arabia? And as Hamilton got the lead back, yes, he has. Will Max Verstappen go down the inside? Yes, he does. Oh, there's contact, I think, between Hamilton and Ocon. Ocon cuts the track, but surely Ocon will give position back to Max Verstappen, and he does. So Max Verstappen is into the lead for Red Bull Racing, and Hamilton struggling a bit in third position. And we'll see a replay, I'm sure, in a moment of what happened there at the restart. But Verstappen is leading, Ocon second, Hamilton third. Nobody has crashed, thankfully. And it looks as though Hamilton now getting properly underway finally. As Giovinazzi, by the way, great restart by him. As Leclerc is really falling down the field. He's now lost another position to, I think, Yuki Tsunoda there. So you got Giovinazzi in 7th. Sebastian Vettel is in 8th place. And then I think Leclerc is 9th. With Sainz in 10th. We'll see in a moment. As Hamilton already closing up to the back of Esteban Ocon. And definitely when DRS gets enabled, Lewis Hamilton will be past that Alpine. But Max Verstappen has fresher tyres and has track position. The only thing that can stop Max today is another red flag or a safety car, or his tyres going off. As Tsunoda, by the way, is up to 8th place on this restart. Well, no, he's not anymore. He's back down to 9th. And Hamilton passes Ocon down to turn 1. So it is Max Verstappen leading here in Saudi Arabia. Lewis Hamilton into 2nd, but Max Verstappen crucially got the restart absolutely bang on. As Tsunoda, hopefully he's not going to go for a move there around the outside into, I think, was turn 7. And here's a replay. So Verstappen, the inside line was there, and it was a fair move. And Ocon had nowhere else to go. I don't believe. And the reason he went off the track, Ocon, is because he was hit by Lewis Hamilton. So that's why that happened. And Hamilton had a good start. Got alongside Ocon, but Max had the gap there, has the fresher tyres, and then just did what he knows how to do best, which is overtake. And Max now into that all-important lead here in Saudi Arabia. And we'll see on this slow-mo. And yeah, Hamilton's the front right part of his front wing, his front right end fence made contact with Ocon there. Don't know if there's any damage to Lewis Hamilton's car, though. We'll see through the rest of this race. But there was a spark that was made from the contact. And then Hamilton, here's a replay of him passing Esteban Ocon. Of course, Ocon not going to defend because he's not racing Lewis Hamilton today. But if Ocon can get a podium out of this, that would be great for him. But we're now on lap 19 out of 50 as Lewis Hamilton does the fastest lap of the race on the hard compound tyre. A 1:33.0. And just letting Max know that, there's 31 laps to go and you're going to have to do a lot more to win this race if you think it's over. So, let me just do the order on lap 19. So it's Max leading by 1.5 seconds from Hamilton 2nd, Ocon 3rd, Ricciardo 4th, Bottas 5th, and then Gasly, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Tsunoda, Leclerc completes your top 10. And then Sainz is 11th, Stroll is 12th, Raikkonen 13th, Alonso is 14th, Norris is 15th, and Latifi 16th. And of course, Perez, Mazepin, Russell, Schumacher, as turn 3 incident will be investigated after the race. That's, of course, the incident that caused the second red flag. The bottom 4, Perez, Mazepin, Russell, Schumacher, of course, all out of this race, in case you're just joining us. So now, let's get into the race, and hopefully, no more safety cars or red flags. As Leclerc, poor restart. He was in P7 and he dropped behind Giovinazzi, Vettel and Tsunoda. And he's now going to try and find his way back as Max briefly, I think. No, he does. Max did the new fastest lap, but Hamilton, I think, was only slightly slower on that lap. As Leclerc having a look down to turn 1 on Tsunoda, but nothing doing. And Leclerc has his teammate right behind him with Carlos Sainz. And the gap, by the way, has closed to 1.1 seconds. Now 1.2 seconds between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And Lewis, I think he definitely has the faster car here. Mainly, I would say, because of the tyres. We've seen all weekend, the harder the tyre, the better the performance does tend to be. So, Hamilton has the, he's on the correct tyre, but he just doesn't have track position. But there is still 30 laps to go to get that track position, and we know Hamilton is absolutely good enough to get it. As Hamilton looks as though he is... Oh, he lost a bit of time through turn 22. I thought he went wide, and he did. Lost about 3 or 4 tenths of a second, but the gap is still about 1.2 seconds. If he didn't make that mistake, he'd have DRS by now. As Hamilton through the final corner, and now what I'm most happy about, and I think you guys are as well, is we now have a 29-lap battle to the end between the two best drivers in Formula 1. As Hamilton sets a new fastest lap of 132.5, and he made a mistake on that lap. Just shows you how quick he is right now. And yeah, here's a replay from Hamilton's on board of that restart, and Verstappen threw it down the inside. Hamilton know where he could go. Thankfully for Hamilton, doesn't seem as though he has any damage from that contact with Esteban Ocon. And, well, he has a slight bit of damage, but it's nothing that's going to really cost him any lap time. As Hamilton continues to closely follow Max Verstappen through this middle sector. Of course, the Red Bull, as I talked about in my race preview, the Red Bull is quicker in Sector 1, but in Sector 2 and Sector 3, with Mercedes, or this Mercedes car of Hamilton in the slipstream, they're definitely able to follow well and close that gap, as he's about 2 tenths of a second closer, maybe even 3 tenths of a second closer, coming now into the final corner than he was before. Hamilton, I have to say, very quick down the straights as he takes a wide line through the entry of the final corner to get a clean exit, and he does. And does he get DRS? Not quite, but he does set the fastest lap of the race, a 132.1. That was about 3 or 4 tenths of a second quicker than Max Verstappen. And like I said, Lewis Hamilton wants to win the championship. He has to pass Max Verstappen here. Not going to be easy to do, as we've seen so far. And also, around this circuit, it's not going to be easy to do. As Hamilton in the dirty air, dropping back a lot in that first sector, losing about half a second, not even half a second, more than that, about 7 tenths of a second in the dirty air of Max Verstappen. As race control just enabling DRS there for the drivers. Pretty sure DRS was enabled quite late, because it's been more than 3 laps, hasn't it, since the restart. So I thought that was a bit late, if I'm being honest. By the way, the rest of the order is as it is. Currently, because Valtteri Bottas cannot pass Daniel Ricciardo, no surprise, Valtteri Bottas can't overtake anyone. Esteban Ocon, right now, is in a great position for a podium. A second podium in a row for Alpine, imagine that. As Hamilton is still quicker. Maybe not on this lap, but in Sector 2 and Sector 3 especially, Hamilton is much quicker than Max Verstappen. And if Hamilton gets a slipstream, a good enough slipstream, and gets that DRS open, he will be certainly troubling the back of that Red Bull. There is no doubt about that. As we're now looking at Bottas behind Ricciardo, and like I said, Bottas can't overtake anyone. We've seen this before this season in Baku, where he started quite low down and went nowhere. As Carlos Sainz has passed Charles Leclerc. No, Leclerc is back past. Yellow flag in Sector 1. It's an AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. It's gone into the barriers. And front wing is hanging off. It'd be best parking that, to be honest. No, he's going to try and get going again, but he's not going to be able to because his wheels won't turn because it's stuck on the front wing. So Tsunoda, his front brakes are on fire right now. And Tsunoda, so he's got rid of the front wing. Now, surely, he can get going again. Will that be a safety car? I don't. It's a virtual safety car. Yeah, that's what I thought it would be. Because the front wing is not on the track, but it does need to be retrieved. So a virtual safety car there is a replay. So Sainz tried to pass Leclerc. Tsunoda went right around the outside of Vettel at turn 1. And, oh, dearie me. Oh, dearie me. That is 100% Tsunoda's fault. He went around the outside, went too deep. Instead of going off the track, tried to keep it on the track and ended up punting Sebastian Vettel off. Thankfully, Sebastian did not go off the circuit, but he did lose Sebastian a couple positions to the Ferraris who were battling themselves. Sainz tried to go down the inside of Leclerc, and then Leclerc held it around the outside, I think. He did. Oh no, Leclerc went off. So Leclerc back ahead because he went off. Don't know if he went off because he was forced off, or I don't quite know. But what I do know is that Leclerc is 8th, Sainz is 9th, Stroll is 10th, Vettel is 11th, as we're on lap 24 now. Thankfully, it's not a full safety car, put it that way. And Ferrari have swapped positions there, so Leclerc is down to 9th place. So Carlos Sainz now up to P8. And then you've got Stroll P10, Vettel P11, Raikkonen 12th, Alonso 13th, Norris is 14th, and then you've got Latifi 15th, and Tsunoda is the last man on the track right now in P16. But we're currently under virtual safety car conditions as Tsunoda, I think that might have been what they were waiting for in terms of getting rid of the virtual safety cars, waiting for Tsunoda to get back into the pits. And there you go, green flag, we are back underway. Tsunoda will be at the back and probably will get lapped very, very soon. And Hamilton looks as though he's been left for dead a bit by Max Verstappen. And the DRS will be re-enabled straight away, thankfully. As we're now halfway through this Grand Prix. The race started an hour and a half ago. We should have been done by now if there was no yellow flags at all, or no safety cars, red flags, any of that. But of course, we've had a pretty mental race so far, and we've only got 25 laps left. Hamilton only a second through the first sector here, sorry. Behind Max Verstappen, that's now grown to 1.3 seconds. Now 1.4 in favour of the World Championship leader. But Hamilton, like I've said before, in the second and third sector, much quicker by the look of it than Max. As that is showing here that Leclerc is behind his teammate. I have to say, the Ferraris are curiously slow because they're 10 seconds behind Giovinazzi, who's in P7. I don't know if they lost a bit of time in the virtual safety car, or that's how much time that they were behind, say, Vettel and Tsunoda and those two who are battling. I don't know, but they have lost a lot of time to the cars ahead of them. They're a pit stop away from Ocon, who's third, as Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap and gets the gap under a second. 1:31.5 there for the 7 times world champion, looking to make it 8 this season. And here is a replay of Fernando Alonso having a spin, and thank the Lord that he did not get collected there by the Williams of Latifi. So close he was to getting collected. And Tsunoda, by the way, will be lapped momentarily by the looks of it. He's not that far up the road, so maybe this will be a bit of a block for Max Verstappen. As, by the way, Kimi Raikkonen has just... no, he has not. Vettel has got back past. Vettel and Raikkonen are very close, fighting over P11 right now, as the turn 2 incident between Vettel and Tsunoda will be investigated. And Tsunoda should get a penalty for that. And yeah, just one update as Norris gets up to P12. And Vettel. Does Vettel? Yeah, Vettel has a problem. Something scraping away. And some piece of debris has fallen off there. There's something on the underneath of Sebastian Vettel's car that's not right. And there's a time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda of 5 seconds. Which is, an easy slam dunk. As Hamilton now beginning of lap 27. Right in the slipstream with DRS open on Max Verstappen. And really starting to close the gap now. And he's within a second now on lap 27. I'll redo the order in just a moment in terms of where Alonso and Vettel are. But you've got Norris in P11 now. Latifi is up to 12th place. Good on him. He's having a decent race, he is. Vettel is 13th. Raikkonen is 14th. Has Raikkonen had an issue as well? Maybe a bit of contact between the Aston and the Alpha. I don't know, but they were both 11th and 12th, and now they're, and now Raikkonen's come into the pit. So yeah, I think Kimi Raikkonen may have made contact with Sebastian Vettel there. As we are on lap 27. And yeah, new front wing for Raikkonen, so that's what it was. It was Raikkonen and Vettel having contact, presumably through turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. As Hamilton has lost a bit of time on this lap. Quite a bit of time, actually. And here we go. So Raikkonen threw it down the inside, went deep. Vettel did a switchback. And through turn 3, what's happened? Oh, there you go. They both, I think, ran wide. They've both just gone deep into the corner, have they? Also, contact was made, and then that's just stupid from both of them, to be honest. Yeah, Raikkonen tries to go around the outside. They're both idiots. I know that's weird to say because they're both really experienced, and of course they are both world champions, Vettel and Raikkonen, but I mean, Vettel for, and thank God that steward got that piece of debris. Absolute hero there. Virtual safety car, though, was just called briefly for a bit more debris, but it is about to end, and it has now just ended. Yeah, Vettel was not willing to give any space, and Raikkonen tried a absolutely impossible move. Raikkonen was never going to overtake him around the outside. Absolutely no chance. But he did try, but he has failed. And he's now basically out of action unless we get a safety car or red flag. As we're now on lap 28 out of 50, and Hamilton continues his pursuit of Max Verstappen, and obviously of his 8th World Championship. And Hamilton, will he get DRS? Not quite. Not quite, but he will. Max and Lewis, I think they are about to lap Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo. So maybe a bit of a hazard coming up for them. And still a bit of debris offline at that corner, but it is off the track. And yeah, first sector in the dirty air, Hamilton losing a lot of time compared to Max Verstappen. Losing 6 or 7 tenths of a second, but then closes about 4 or 5 tenths in the final 2 sectors. Hamilton needs to get DRS. That's what he needs. Because it will keep him close enough then. So when he does lose time in the first sector, it won't be too much. I have to say, Max and Lewis are not leaving anything to spare when it comes to how close they're getting to the walls here. They really are pushing here in Jeddah. And Lewis starting to gain back some time on this lap. Another virtual safety car. Oh, God. It's just it's just a safety car Grand Prix, isn't it? Another piece of debris that Lance Stroll in 10th place is just driving past. Where's that? I think it's turn 12, I think it is. It'll be from Sebastian Vettel's side pod / barge board. Hopefully this will be the last virtual safety car. It seems as though anyone who attempts to do an overtake here causes a safety car, virtual safety car, or red flag. It's just impossible by the looks of it. And yeah, now the marshals are clearing up as Max and Lewis, I think, have just started lap 30 out of 50. Oh no, they started it quite a while ago, actually. And still debris on the exit of turn 12. The short DRS straight on the run to turn 13, the banked hairpin. But no sign of anyone going to pick it up right now. So we are still under a virtual safety car. And Hamilton continues to follow Verstappen closely. Obviously, won't want to give up any time on this virtual safety car restart. And there is, interestingly, a car directly ahead of Verstappen and Hamilton. I think, like I said before, of Kimi Räikkönen, who Max will want to get past as soon as. He won't want to be getting any dirty air from the back of the Alfa Romeo. And here's a replay of Vettel and Räikkönen, like I said. But just both idiots. Vettel went wide. Räikkönen was trying an impossible overtake. Yeah. I'm sure they'll laugh about it at some point. But obviously not at the moment because they're still in the race and it's cost them vital track position on the people in the points. As Max Verstappen begins lap 31 out of 50. And Max and Lewis just coming through the first 3 or 4 corners. Hopefully the debris, they should have cleared it up by now, surely. Nope, they still haven't. I wonder if they're going to put a safety car out if they can't clear the debris away. Because there's not been an attempt made at a couple of corners to clear the debris. It would sure spice the race up if there was a safety car. And there's still debris on the straight between turn. I don't know, why is no one trying to retrieve that? Is it because they can't or because they're too far away, the marshals? Like, what's the situation? Because there's no real attempt being made, from what I can see, to get the debris off the circuit. I will say one thing, is next year when we come here for, which is actually, this race will be the second race of next season, a week after the first race of the season, which is Bahrain. If the field is really close next season, in 2022, of course the cars are massively different. If it's a really close field, this race is going to be absolutely mental. Literally anyone could win if it's that close, if it's as close as we're hoping next season. That's one thing it showed me. But still, we have a virtual safety car. There's a 35-second gap between Alonso and Raikkonen on circuit, which you'd hope would be the gap to, you know, for the marshals to go out on track and get the debris out of the way. As we're now on lap 32 out of 50. And we still wait to see if there's if the debris is gone. No, it hasn't. Just call a safety car then. What are we waiting for? We're going to do this for the rest of the race. I don't get what we're doing here. Is the debris still on the left? No. Well, I couldn't quite see, to be honest. But if the debris's not been cleared away, call it safety car and then get a marshal to clear it up. Enough of the waiting. Let's get on with it. Max, Lewis, and Raikkonen look like they're going pretty quickly. To be honest, I don't really know why. Yeah, I don't understand what are they waiting for. Either call a safety car or get a marshal to get out there and get it, the debris. Don't wait forever. But still, we wait. In before they call a red flag for the millionth time this season. As Raikkonen down in 15th place. Most likely not going to score a point in this race or the final race of his career, which of course is the final race of the season next weekend in Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. As we're now at lap 33 out of 50, only 17 laps to go, so I would like some racing, Mr. Massey. But, yeah, still we wait. Presumably, there you go. Virtual safety car is about to end, thankfully. And yeah, the debris was cleared off the curb there in turn, what was it, turn 8. And there you go, green flag. We are now back under racing speed. Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do in regards to Max Verstappen. Raikkonen immediately lets Verstappen through and then gets in the way of Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure. And Raikkonen does get out the way, but I'm sure that did not help Lewis at all. And it didn't. Cost him about 3 or 4 tenths of a second. Hamilton will have to get his head down and get after Max again. And most importantly, he has to try and get within a second of the Dutchman. If he gets that and can stay within that, then he will at least at some point before the end have a go. Because the Mercedes in a straight line is an absolute rocket ship. We saw that in the last race watch-along we did, which was for Brazil. We saw that the Mercedes in a straight line is an absolute rocket. And now they complete the lap. The gap is down to 1.3 seconds between Max and Lewis. So lap 34 out of 50. As Esteban Ocon, by the way, still in third. And because Valtteri Bottas can't overtake anything, Esteban Ocon looks as though he is heading for his third podium in the last year. His first podium was about this time last year for the Sakir Grand Prix, which of course was the alternate layout in Bahrain. And then he won the Hungarian Grand Prix. And it looks as though he's heading for third here in Saudi Arabia. As Hamilton a bit closer through these corners, turn 16, 17, 18, than he was the lap before, but definitely not close enough to really be giving anything, worrying, though, for Max Verstappen to think about. And Hamilton, I think, made a slight mistake through turn 22, because he lost a couple tenths there, but he does gain it back. As just seeing, and I'll just quickly flick the lap counter over before I do it, as we now got 15 laps to go in this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Hamilton does a new fastest lap of 131.4, but it wasn't that much quicker. Well, it actually was. I was going to say it wasn't that much quicker than Max Verstappen. It was. It was 9/10 of a second quicker. So let's see if Lewis can put on one last final charge to get after Max Verstappen here. As, yeah, he's definitely closer so far through this lap than he was a lap ago. But Alonso is up to, oh, why? Another piece of debris on the track. Bloody hell. Alonso is up to 13th. He's ahead of Sebastian Vettel. I'm guessing Sebastian Vettel has floor damage or something like that, which is why he is now down in 14th, and he won't finish any lower probably because Raikkonen and Tsunoda are miles behind the Aston driver, as Hamilton even closer on this lap. As they get to the final corner, he'll only be about a second, maybe just under a second behind. No, he'll be just over a second, most importantly for Max Verstappen. And I don't think Lewis will get DRS down to turn 1 as they begin lap 36 out of 50. Hamilton, another new fastest lap of 131.1. And Hamilton continues to hunt this victory. That after the first 10 laps, and virtual safety car for the 5th time, or I don't even know how many times, 3 or 4 times at least. A virtual safety car for another piece of debris. This race, I'm sorry, this race is a joke. It's too tight. If anyone has or sheds the tiniest piece of debris, which is what Sebastian Vettel has been doing in the last few laps, if anyone sheds any type of debris, even if it's tiny, virtual safety car, if someone spins safety car, it's just, you can't race around it. I mean, you can if there's no such thing as a safety car or red flag, and of course you can't go racing like that. But it's just ridiculous. You can't. It's like Baku, but worse. It's literally impossible to not have a safety car, virtual safety car, red flag around here. As Hamilton, by the way, much closer. He's got DRS now on the back of Max Verstappen. So here we go into the final corner. Hamilton only 0.4 of a second behind. He's right behind Verstappen. Takes a wider line through the final corner, and surely now he will go for it on Verstappen. Verstappen weaving down the straight. Verstappen defends to the inside. Hamilton pulls to the outside. And can he get the move done? Verstappen forces his way, loses the rear end. Very lucky not to go into the barriers. And they live to fight another day. As we're now lap 37 out of 50. And Max did pretty much what he did in Brazil. Lewis went for the move, and Max said, "No, you're not having that. You're not having that position. I'm just gonna dive right back up the inside here." And Max, I don't know what to say. I mean, Max and Lewis saying this guy is fucking crazy, man. That's basically what he said. If Hamilton had gone off with him, I think that would have led to Max getting a penalty there. Because it would have been then Max forcing Lewis off the circuit. But because Lewis stayed on, I think that's going to help Max's case. But this is the problem, you see, as Norris passes Stroll for 10th place. And Norris now back in players. By the way, the Ferraris have closed back up to just a second behind Giovinazzi. So they have got back up there as... What the hell? What the hell was happened there? Max has slowed down for some reason, and then Lewis has just piled into the back of him. What was that? Was he told to let him through? And that's... Oh my God. That was... just seen a replay. What the fuck was that? I've never seen that before. He just slowed down and Lewis just hit the back of him. What was that? Was he... The only thing that could explain that is that Max has been told to let Lewis through. They've now noted that incident. I think it needs more than noting, as Toto Wolff looks like he's about to take off into outer space with rage. Even takes his headset off and is like, what the fuck? And yeah, it's under investigation now, Hamilton and Verstappen. Wow. The only thing that can explain that is that Max has been told to let Lewis through, and then Lewis, or that Max has then backed off, but backed off at a part of the circuit really where he shouldn't have been backing off. And then Lewis, he's like probably thinking, like, what's he doing? Then tries to get past, and then that's the only thing that can explain it. Like, what? Lewis saying it was just dangerous driving, dude. Yeah. That is the strangest thing I've ever seen. Put it this way. If Max Verstappen was not told to let him through and he did that on purpose, then they need to throw the fucking book at him, because that is disgraceful. Yeah, so just reading from Chris Medland on Twitter, very good journalist, saying Hamilton hits Verstappen as Max slowed to let him pass. That's what I thought. So, and here is Bottas passing Ricciardo for 4th place, or is it? I know, Ricciardo then gets back past him. I think Ricciardo might have let him go deliberately to get the DRS back. Oh, right. I'm just reading Chris Medland here, and it is true, and what he's saying is right. So Max slowed down to let him pass, but Max, tried to pull a bit of a fast one. He tried to let him through right before the final corner, so Max was going to get DRS. Lewis knows this, didn't want Verstappen to have DRS immediately into turn 1, so that's why Lewis didn't just sail past him. So they're both at fault? I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be the stewards. But that's what happened. Max tried to let him through, but did it in a bit of a sneaky way. And Ricciardo being a bit of... Yeah, Ricciardo's just being an absolute twat, but you can't blame him. I mean, he's not doing anything wrong. And now Bottas should... Will he overtake Ricciardo down into turn 1? Ricciardo defends to the inside here on that 40 in. Bottas will... Yes, he will. Just get it slowed down in time. Yeah, just to repeat. So Max tried to let him pass, but was sneaky about it and knew if I let him pass at the final corner, I'll get DRS on him and get past him straight away. So that's what he tried to do. Lewis knows this. Tried to stay behind and wait probably till the pit straight, but then hits the back of him. I don't know how they could... How are they going to interpret that? Because Max is trying to let him pass. Lewis isn't trying not to pass, even though he is being allowed past. I don't understand, man. I don't understand what they're going to do about that. Let me know in the chat what should happen. Because I ain't got a fucking clue. Right, let me just update some of the order. So Bottas is up to 4th. Sainz and Leclerc have both passed Giovinazzi. So 2 Ferraris are 7th and 8th. And we're now on lap 41 out of 50. And the Mercedes are on the radio to the FIA, probably screaming down the radio. And Hamilton does have front wing damage, by the way. This comment in the chat is absolutely, I think, bang on. From C. Oz, maybe Osborne. I don't. Maybe that's what it's short for. he says, or she, whoever it could be, says, where did the comment go? There you go. They both as bad as each other, pulling stunts like that. Hamilton has done his own questionable tactics many times. I don't agree with that. Just to be clear, I don't agree with that part of his comment. Karma can be a biatch. I agree with your first part of the statement. I think they're both trying to outsmart each other, and they ended up outsmarting themselves, and very lucky they both, got through there without both being out of the race. As Lewis Hamilton, who now, the way he's driving that car, looks like he is absolutely possessed now with rage and hate, is now just done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:31.0, and he is now closing back on Verstappen. And I can tell you now, if he has a go on Verstappen, he will have no problem whatsoever forcing Max off the circuit if that's what needs to happen. These two are pushing the rule book, I have to say. Again, it's such a weird incident. It's so weird. We're seeing replays of it now. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think there should be a penalty. Max was trying to let him past. You got to remember this. So technically speaking, Max Verstappen was doing what he was told. He was letting Lewis Hamilton go, even though he was doing it in a sneaky type of way. Hamilton, though, knew what Max was trying to do, so was trying to, prolong that process, and then, that's what happened. How can you punish? And Lewis has just overtook Max Verstappen, and Verstappen dives back down the inside at the final corner. Oh, Jesus Christ. What are they doing now? Max let him through. Oh, Lewis is going to be so angry after this race, and I would be too. So Max did it again. He let Lewis through before the final corner, knowing he would get DRS, then dive down the inside. Max Verstappen, 5-second time penalty. So Max Verstappen, he's lost the race, so do what he wants now. Max let him through to get DRS, then dive down the inside, got the DRS, and then was back past. What? I don't even know what's going on anymore, guys. So again, he did the same thing. He slowed down, let Lewis go, and then now he gets DRS. And then turn 27 incident will be investigated after the race. I think they're talking about, Max letting Lewis back through. And then, doing what he did. And also, right, so Max was given a 5-second penalty for earlier, as Max is trying to do a move here, as no, Hamilton has overtaken him into the final corner. Can Max get back past? Don't think he will. So there you go. Hamilton is into the lead, and given the pace we've seen from Lewis Hamilton, he should now win this race. Mental. Absolutely mental. As Max is all over the place behind him. I don't even know where to start. Wow. You're going to remember this race for all the wrong reasons, where Max and Lewis tried to crash into each other about 10 times in 50 laps. Wow, what a Grand Prix. So, here's another replay. So, Max lets Lewis through again, tries to do what he did previously, but Lewis just parks it on the apex of turn 27, runs Max wide so that Max can't get a run on him, and then yeah. But wow, what a race this has been. And Hamilton now about 1.8 seconds in the lead, and only a few laps to go now. So unless Max Verstappen, comes up with a response, which I doubt it, then Hamilton should win this Grand Prix. But yeah. Make sure in the chat, post your comments about, what do you think of what's going on? Because I've never seen this before, to be honest. This type of tactics and tricks on track, if you know what I mean. But, let's review it. So let's forget what happened with the restarts and all of that. So Max, I was about to say this before Lewis was let through and then re-overtaken again. And by the way, at the moment, Lewis Hamilton has the fastest lap of the race. And if Lewis wins and gets the fastest lap and Max Verstappen finishes second, Lewis and Max will be level on points going into the final race. And they should be level on points going into the final race. Why not? They have been so close all season. It's been the greatest, probably, championship battle I can remember. And why not then be level on points going into the final race and have at it for that final Grand Prix. But, so what I was trying to say, as Hamilton consolidates his fastest lap, Max Verstappen was given a 5-second time penalty for what happened 2 or 3 laps before, where Max, defended position and went off the track and Hamilton stayed on. Was that fair? Yeah, I think it was. I think Max Verstappen should have got a penalty for that, because Max was never making the corner. It was either him going off on his own, which he did, or it was Max and Lewis both going off and crashing off together, which you never know. Maybe what Max was intending there. Wouldn't exactly hurt him, would it, in the championship if he took Hamilton off and out of the race with him. As Sebastian Vettel, by the way, is out of the race in he's down in 16th place now. So there you go. But yeah, so the penalty Max got was the correct one. And they were under investigation, I think, for that. They weren't under investigation for what that contact between Lewis and Max. I don't think that was put under investigation, or maybe it was, but they're going to do it after the race. But all in all, and these two have, how many incidents in this race alone have they had with each other? They've had about 4 or 5, at least, maybe more. And probably, under the amount of times they have had a bit of a get together. All in all, Lewis Hamilton, I think, should win this race because, Lewis, since the restart of the race on lap 16 or something, Lewis has been quicker. The hard compound tyre has been definitely the better tyres. Yeah, a bit of debris falling off there. Maybe they want to throw a virtual safety car out to pick up that debris. Lewis has been quicker since the restart of the race, and he attempted a move. Max kept the position by going off. And yeah. And when it comes to what happened later on where Max was trying to let him through and Lewis hit the back of him, they're both just, they're both just being immature idiots, I think. Max obviously starting it by trying to, by trying to let him through at a convenient spot. But yeah, I think they were both a bit stupid when it comes to that. But overall, I think we are going to get the right result here, which is Lewis Hamilton winning the Grand Prix with Max Verstappen second. And like I said, couldn't be any more tasty, could it? Going into the final race. After what we've seen here, it couldn't be any more tasty, could it? Going into that final Grand Prix. Level on points going into the final race. That just sounds amazing, honestly. Thank God there's no sprint race next weekend. As Valtteri Bottas, by the way, is now within a second of Esteban Ocon. Can Ocon hold on for a second podium in 2021? And what would be Alpine's third podium of 2021? Of course, the last Grand Prix in Qatar, they had a podium with Fernando Alonso. Can Ocon hold on? Will he try the same manoeuvre as Verstappen and Ricciardo, letting Bottas go and then getting the slipstream and DRS down to turn 1 to repass? We'll see. As Bottas obviously falling back in the dirty air. But we do have about 2.5 laps to go. Noboru, just want to read this comment on the chat. Very nice one, and I agree with it. Guys, I know we all get heated and snap back at each other during these races, but I want you all to know that I love you guys and wish nothing but the best for you all. Good God bless. And yeah, I pretty much echo that. This race, I mean, we're going to be talking about this race a lot in the next week. And probably be talking about this a lot, possibly for the next few years. But let's try and keep it civil to a certain extent. And like I said, don't forget, guys, I will be live with a race reaction stream. And don't worry, we'll go through all of this. And it will need probably a couple hours just to get through Hamilton and Verstappen, never mind the rest of the teams. We will go through all of it in the race reaction stream. As Bottas, he's going to pass Ocon. No, not quite, into turn 1. Bottas has probably a lap and a half to go with in terms of, his chances to get a move done. But yeah, I will be doing a race reaction stream, guys, and I will be live as soon as possible after I finish this stream. So, I mean, it should take me 15 to 20 minutes, probably, to maybe half an hour at most to get that stream set up. As soon as as soon as this race finishes, I'll come off and get that stream going for you guys as soon as I can. And then, yeah, make sure, what I'm trying to say is, make sure to come along to that, and we'll go through it all. We'll react to all that's happened in this Grand Prix. And if you want to get out your full thoughts, as we now enter the final lap here in Saudi Arabia, if you want to get out your full thoughts as to, what happened in this race, then make sure to come along to the race reaction stream in about 30 to 35 minutes from now, and we'll go through it all and you can have at it. We're now on the final lap. Hamilton leading from Verstappen second, and then Ocon third, Bottas fourth. Will Bottas be able to pass Ocon? Not seeing any movement at the moment. And Bottas does get third. No, Ocon is third. It'd be great if we could see it, Mr. Director, instead of watching Lewis Hamilton. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, let's not watch a battle for the podium on the final lap. Let's watch Lewis Hamilton touring around. That's absolutely fantastic. Leclerc, by the way, has passed Carlos Sainz. And yet Ocon is third. And Ocon will get a podium. A second podium in a row, surely, for the Alpine team. Just has to make sure to hang on for the rest of this lap as Lewis Hamilton now comes into the final couple corners. A very controversial race, but at the end, this is the result that it deserves to be. Lewis Hamilton has been the better man today and has driven still very well despite what Max Verstappen has been trying to do to him. And now comes to the line and Lewis Hamilton wins the first ever Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, let's see when he comes to the line. And here he comes, finishes in second place. And the two championship protagonists will be level on points going into the final race of the season. It couldn't be any more tasty, could it? Going into that final Grand Prix. Esteban Ocon third. It should be. We're still waiting. And no, Bottas has got it. Bottas on the line gets the podium. That's such a shame. Oh no, that's such a shame for Ocon. He got him on the line. That's very similar to Bottas and Stroll in 2017 at Baku. So Bottas gets the podium. Ocon will be fourth. Ricciardo fifth. Gasly sixth. And then Leclerc, Sainz, Giovinazzi, Norris, Stroll, Latifi, Alonso, Tsunoda, Raikkonen. Complete the rest of the people who have finished this Grand Prix. And here's a replay of Bottas and Ocon. And Ocon just let Bottas get too close behind out the final corner, and it was inevitable with the DRS wide open. And then, yeah, so the final results, Hamilton wins, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Ocon fourth, Ricciardo fifth, sixth is Gasly, seventh Leclerc, eighth Sainz, ninth Giovinazzi, 10th Norris, 11th Stroll, 12th Latifi, 13th Alonso, 14th Tsunoda, 15th Raikkonen, and then your retirement, Sebastian Vettel, Sergio Perez, Nikita Mazepin, George Russell, and Mick Schumacher. But guys, that has been the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Like I said, I will be live for the race reaction in probably about half an hour from now, so make sure to come along to that, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content. And as well, don't forget to join me in a week from now and make sure to sub and hit the notifications bell for the race watch along for the next Grand Prix, the final Grand Prix, where we will find out who will be the world champion. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that. As well, smash the like button, share this video on your channel everywhere you can, and don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description. But guys, until my race reaction in about half an hour from now, it has been me, Shazza HD. Goodbye.